Good afternoon, Shana Tova. We're going to begin in the Machzor on page 325 at the bottom of the page. Ozi v'zimrat yah vayehili lishua. Ozi v'zimrat yah vayehili lishua. Page 328. Please rise. We give thanks today for a Torah of life, the way of kindness, mercy, and truth. May compassion be our source of sustenance now as in our people's past. May our souls withstand times of crisis and our hearts the inclination to evil. May the covenant of Abraham and Sarah strengthen our will to do what is right. May the qualities of mercy and goodness, love and forgiveness flow through our lives. And let us be strong in a perilous world. Let us open our hearts to the path of Torah. Kuma Adonai v'yafutzu oivecha v'yanusu misanecha mipanecha ki mitzion tetzei Torah ki mitzion tetzei Torah u'devar Adonai mi'Yerushalayim Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah Le'amo Yisrael B'Hikdushato Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kahadosh v'Norah Shemo. Gadlu Adonai ki, Udarama Shemo Yachda. Lecha Adonai Hagedula V'Hagevora V'Tiferet V'Hanetzach V'Hahod Ki Chol B'Shamayim U'Va'aretz Ki Chol B'Shamayim U'Va'aretz Lecha Adonai HaMamlacha V'Yamit Na'aseh Lechol Erosh. Oh. Well, we got to roll it up. Okay. Right spot. Okay. That's for next week's podcast.
There it is.
Yeah, right there. Nope.
Nope.
Close. That's it.
Ah, that
There
one.
you go, yeah.
Okay.
Well, they all start the same way. Vaya de bear Adonai el Moshe Lemor. It's like over and over again. So, the Torah portion that we read on Yom Kippur afternoon is called the Holiness Code. It gets its name from the first sentence in which God instructs Moses to tell the Israelites, "You shall be holy, for I, your eternal God, am holy." What does God mean by saying that we should be holy? Or for that matter, that he or she is holy? Our tradition teaches that God has two qualities, the attribute of justice and the attribute of mercy. In the Holiness Code, we hear the dual command that we act with justice and with mercy, or compassion, because God exercised these two qualities on our behalf. Our obligations of justice are very specific, leaving produce for the poor, having honest weights and measures, applying the law equally to citizen and alien alike. But the text is also filled with references to acts of compassion and respect. One should rise before age, one should not curse the deaf, and most famous of all, one should love one's neighbor as oneself. These obligations flow from the history of our relationship with God. The Holiness Code reminds us that it was God who freed us from slavery, that it was God's act of justice to which we owe our existence as a people. At the same time, the text teaches us a lesson in remembering. You shall love not only your neighbors, but even the strangers who dwell in your midst. For you, God reminds us, were strangers in the land of Egypt. So long as we keep that memory alive, we know what it is like to be alone, away from home, even exiled. We then are obligated to follow God's path, to pursue justice in our daily lives, and to make compassion for others a central tenet of Judaism. That is the meaning of be holy, for I, your God, am holy. Our Torah readers today will be Howard Scott. There are too many Cohens here. We're looking on the list. Yeah, you're not a Cohen, huh? No. Would you like to be one? Howard Scott, Liz Suffet, and Sammy Flansbaum. Our first Aliyah will be recited by Sharon Deborah Cohen. Tamod Zissel Daba Chai Bat Binyamin the Sarayeta.
Where are we?
Do you have the? Where is the yard? There it is.
Ah. Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Havarach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam vaed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Page 338.
Amen. Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe Lemor. Daber el kol adat b'nei Yisrael. Yamarta alehem kadoshim you. Ki kadosh ani Adonai Elohechem. Ish imo v'aviv tirau v'et shabbatotai tishmoru. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Al tifnu el ha'elilim, Elohei masecha, lo ta'asu lachem, Ani Adonai Elohechem. V'chi tizbechu, zevach shlamim l'Adonai, Birtzonechem tizbechu, V'yom zivchachem, Yeachel u'mimacharat, Hanotar ad yom hashlishi ba'esh yisarev. Ve'im he'akol ye'achel ba'yom hashlishi v'golhu lo yiratzeh. V'ochlav avano Yisa, ki et kodesh Adonai chilel, v'nichrita ha'nefesh ahi me'amecha, u'kutzrechem et ketzir atzrechem, lo techale, v'yatzarecha litzor, v'leket ketzirecha lo telake, v'charmecha lo telel, ופרט קרמך לא תלקט, לעני לגר תעזוב אותם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
And our second aliyah will be recited by, Tzahla David. Tamod Tzahla bat Devor of Yisrael.
Starts at 11 and ends at 18.
This is a different. Yeah. This isn't the one I usually read from.
Right there.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך. ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Lo tignovu velo techakashu velo tishkaru ish ba'amito velo tishva'u bishmi la shaker v'kilalta et shem Eloheka ani Adonai lo ta'asuk et re'aka velo tigzol lo talin pa'ulat zakir itaka ad boker lo takalel Keresh v'lifnei iver lo titain mikshol v'yareta me'eloheka ani Adonai lo ta'asu v'avel b'mishpat lo tisa v'neital v'lo tedar b'nei gadol b'tzedek tishpot amitekam lo yeah, it breaks different. Lo telek rachil bil bavekam lo ta'amod al dam re'echa ani Adonai lo tisna et achicha bil bavecha hocheach tochiach et amitecha lo tisha alav chet lo tikom velo titur et b'nei amecha, and I've lost my place, amecha be'ahavta l'reacha chamocha Ani Adonai. Right in the middle.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
And our third aliyah will be recited by Janice Flansbaum. Tamod Shendel Rezel Bat Mordechai V'Yaakov. There it is. Yep. Okay. Right there. Right. Oh, you got your own. Yeah. Okay.
I don't have to go to the top. Right?
Baruch Hu Adonai Hamvarach.
Self-prepared.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Hamim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
מפני שיבה תקום והרת פני זקן והרתם אלוהיך אני אדוני ויהי גור איתך גר בארצכם לא תונו יתקוף כעת רע מכם יהיה לכם הגר הגר איתכם ואהבת לו כמוך כי גרים הייתם בארץ מצרים אני אדוני אלוהיכם לא תעשו אבל במשפט במידה במשקל ובמשורה מאזני צדק אבני צדק אפוד צדק והן צדק יהיה לכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים ושמרתם את כל חוקותי וכל משפטי ועשיתם אותם אני אדוני.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chai olam natan b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Thank you. Okay. So, that's right. And get my outline here. We're going to lift the Torah and return the Torah to the ark. I invite you to rise and turn to page 340. Okay, you ready? There we go. Yeah. Yep. V'zot Torah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Yai lai lai lai, lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai, lai 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 lai. You may be seated. Just welcome again to everybody watching online. If you're joining us online, I hope that you're able to follow along in the prayer book, which you could find under virtual resources. We are on page 342, and we're about to proceed with the Haftarah reading. And I like to chant the Haftarah in English. So if you know Haftarah trope, you'll find it even more interesting to hear it this way, because chanting it in English means we get to hear it the way it's meant to be heard, where it's meant to be sung. And you get to follow the story as it's chanted. But if you know Haftarah trope and you look in the Hebrew, you'll see that I'm actually chanting the same signs that are in the Hebrew. So each verse matches the signs that are in the Hebrew for that particular verse. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nviim tovim v'ratzav v'divreihem hanemarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'torah uv'Moshe avdo uv'Yisrael amo uv'nviei ha'emet v'tzedek. We're on page 344. And the word of Adonai came to Jonah, son of Amittai. Get up. I love that. Go to the great city of Nineveh and proclaim against it, for their evil deeds have risen before me. But Jonah got up to flee to Tarshish, away from the presence of Adonai. And he went down to Jaffa and found there a ship heading for Tarshish. And he paid its fare and went down into it to head with them to Tarshish, away from the presence of Adonai. But Adonai hurled a great wind upon the sea, a storm at sea so great that the ship was in danger of being shattered to pieces. And the sailors were frightened, cried out, each to his God, and flung the ship's cargo into the sea to lighten their load. But Jonah had gone down into the hold, the lower deck of the vessel, and he lay down and fell into a deep sleep. And the captain approached him and said to him, "What are you doing? Sound asleep? Get up, call to your God. Perhaps the God will be kind to us, and we will not perish." And they said, each man to his companion, "Let us cast lots, that we might know on whose account this evil event has come to us." So they cast lots, and the lot fell on Jonah. And they said to him, "Tell us, you who have brought this evil upon us, what is your trade, and where have you come from? What is your country, and who are your people?" And he said to them, "I am a Hebrew. I revere Adonai, God of heaven, who made sea and dry land." The men felt great fear, and they asked him, "What have you done?" Because the men knew he was fleeing from Adonai, for so he had told them. And they asked him, "What should we do to you to bring calm to the sea around us?" For the sea was growing more and more stormy. So he said to them, lift me up and hurl me into the sea, and the sea will come down for you. For I know that this great storm came upon you because of me. And the crew rowed hard to return to the dry land, but they could not do it, for the sea was raging more and more fiercely around them. And they called out to Adonai, saying, please, Adonai, please do not let us perish because of the life of this man, and do not hold us guilty for shedding innocent blood. For you, Adonai, that which you desired, you have brought about. And they lifted Jonah and hurled him into the sea. Then the sea stopped raging. The men revered Adonai, great was their reverence. So they offered to Adonai a sacrifice and made vows. And Adonai provided a great fish to swallow Jonah, and Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights. Jonah prayed to Adonai his God from the belly of the fish. And he said, I called to Adonai in my distress, and God answered me. I cried out from the belly of the netherworld, and you heard my voice. Into the depths you cast me, into the heart of the sea, and the floods engulfed me. All your billowing, breaking waves swept over me. And I thought to myself, I was banished from before your eyes. Will I ever again gaze upon your holy temple? The waters closed in over me, the deep engulfed me, rushes wrapped around my head. I descended to the low point of the mountains, the gates of the earth closed upon me forever. Yet you, Adonai, my God, raised up my life from the pit. When my life fainted away, I called Adonai to mind, and my prayer came to you, to your holy temple. They who cling to empty folly forsake their own welfare, but I, with a shout of thanksgiving, I will sacrifice to you. What I have vowed I will fulfill. Rescue comes from Adonai. Adonai commanded the fish, and it spewed Jonah out upon dry land. And the word of Adonai came to Jonah a second time. Get up, go to the great city of Nineveh, and call out to it the proclamation that I will tell you. So Jonah got up and went to Nineveh according to the word of Adonai. Now Nineveh was a great city of God, 3 days' journey across. And Jonah started out and made his way into the city, the distance of a 1-day walk. And he called out and said, 40 more days, and Nineveh shall be overturned. The people of Nineveh trusted in God, and they proclaimed a fast, and they put on sackcloth from the richest to the poorest. And word reached the king of Nineveh, and he got up from his throne, took off his robe, put on sackcloth, and sat in ashes. And he cried out and said in Nineveh, by decree of the king and his nobles, no person or beast, a flock or herd, shall taste anything. They shall not graze, and they shall not drink water. They shall be covered with sackcloth, person and beast, and shall call loudly to God. Let all turn back from their evil ways and from the violence which is in their hands. Who knows? God may turn and relent, turn back from the heat of anger so that we do not perish. God saw what they did, how they were turning back from their evil ways, and God relented from the evil planned for them and did not carry it out. But to Jonah this was a great evil, and it made him angry. So he prayed to Adonai, saying, Please, Adonai, is this not what I said when I was still in my own country? This is why I fled to Tarshish to begin with, for I knew that you are a gracious and compassionate God, endlessly patient and abounding in steadfast love, ready to repent of evil. And now, Adonai, please take my life from me, for it is better for me to die than to live. And Adonai said, Is it good for you to be angry? Then Jonah left the city, found a place east of the city, made himself a shelter there, and sat under it in the shade until he might see what would become of the city. And Adonai Elohim provided a gourd and made it rise up over Jonah to give shade for his head and rescue him from his evil situation. And Jonah rejoiced with great joy because of the gourd. But at dawn the next day, God provided a worm that attacked the gourd, and it withered. And as the sun rose, God provided an oppressive wind from the east, and the sun beat down on Jonah's head, making him faint. He begged for death, saying, It is better for me to die than to live. Then God said to Jonah, Are you good and angry about the gourd? And he said, I am good and angry to the point of death. Then Adonai said, You pitied the gourd, which you neither worked for nor grew, which appeared overnight and perished overnight. Should I then not have compassion for the great city of Nineveh, a place of more than 120,000 human beings, unable to tell their right hand from their left, and many beasts? Page 351. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, tzur kol haolamim, tzaddik bechol hadorot, hanel hane'eman, haomer voseh, hamedaber umkayem, shekol devarav emet vatzedek, al haTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al hanvi'im ve'al yom ha'kippurim hazeh, שנתת לנו, אדוני אלוהינו, למחילה ולסליחה ולכפרה, לכבוד ולתפארת. על הכל, אדוני אלוהינו, אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך, יתברך שמך בפי כל חי, תמיד לעולם ועד, ודברך אמת וקיים לעד, ברוך אתה אדוני. מלך מוחל וצולח לעוונותינו ולעוונות עמו בית ישראל, ומעביר אשמותינו בכל שנה ושנה, מלך על כל הארץ, מקדש ישראל ויום הכיפורים. Amen. Well, we come now to the part of the service, traditionally the Amidah, the central section of the service. And as I wrote about in my message this week, Mishkan HaNefesh, our Machzor, our High Holy Day prayer book, does something wonderfully creative with this part of the service. It takes the 7 prayers of the Amidah and associates each prayer with one quality of character called Midot HaNefesh, qualities of character. And the idea here is that not just that each prayer somehow alludes to one of these qualities, but that the prayers aren't meant to just be read through. They're meant as invitations to search inside of ourselves, to consider our own qualities of character. And the text, Mishkan HaNefesh, has provided us with a lot of additional readings, creative readings on each of these 7 themes. I have selected 3 of these themes, and rather than simply read, we want to encounter the text. And the best way to encounter the text is through dialogue, through reading together in groups and reflecting on what the text says. We have a couple of discussion leaders, and given the number of people I'm seeing here, I think we'll go for 3 groups. So one group is going to be up here in the circle of chairs, conveniently provided for you in advance. One group is going to be in the middle of the room over there, and one group in that corner of the room. And Joss, where are you, Joss? Why don't you take this corner? Valerie, why don't you take that corner? And I'll take the middle one. And here's what I want to suggest. Go wherever you like, but no more than 10 people in a group. That's the number of chairs in the circle. So if the chairs are filled, you got to go find another group. And some of you who have been married for a very long time, let me recommend that that as partners you go to different groups and find something different in your experience, which then you'll be able to talk about for after breakfast. Or before then, for that matter. So those of you who are online, let me mention online folks. We will also have an online discussion if you're in Zoom. If you're in Zoom, welcome. Rena Leibovich is going to facilitate the discussion. You can find where these readings are in the prayer book. First off, I hope you've opened up the prayer book, the flip book version of our prayer book, which is on our website and virtual resources. Also, under that list of virtual resources, it says Yom Kippur Afternoon Discussion. And if you pull up that link, it'll give you the page numbers and specifically which readings we'll be discussing. And I think you'll want to open that up so that you can participate in the discussion online. Those of you who are watching in Boxcast or Facebook or who knows where else you could see this on our website. If you're just watching and you're not in Zoom, I invite you to also go to that page, the virtual resources, and click on Yom Kippur Afternoon Discussion, and you'll see the particular text we're going to read. You may want to spend this time reflecting on the text on your own or with those who are present with you in your home, wherever you are watching. And we are going to reconvene in 30 minutes. So it's 4:10 now. At 4:40, we will come back together and continue through the end of Mincha, through the end of the afternoon service. Thanks.
I'd like to add something if I may. This is Dawn. Can everybody hear?
Yes?
Okay. As a non-member, I just
Welcome back. Friends who are online, welcome back to our afternoon service. Oops. We're going to continue now. I hope that you had good discussions and that these particular passages were meaningful. You got to explore them in a little more depth because you were talking with other people about them. Let's continue in the prayer book on page 410. Yehiyu May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable unto you, my rock and my redeemer. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable unto you, my rock and my redeemer. Page 436. Let's read responsively. It is written, "Know before whom you stand, but in truth we do not know. Together perhaps we stand before our history, a chronicle of stubbornness, quiet heroism, the will to live. Perhaps it is the memory of those who struggled to be human in a world that was dark and cold. Perhaps we stand before ideals that call us to do justice, to love kindness, to walk humbly on this earth. Unnameable mystery that brought us here. We stand together, seekers, doubters, and those who are firm in their faith, and this we know. The day is short, the work is immense, the laborers are reluctant, the reward is great, and the need is urgent. Page 437 at the bottom of the page. Amarabi Akiva, Amarabi Akiva, Amarabi Akiva. Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, זה כלל גדול בתורה. ואהבת לרעך. That's all there is to it, it's easy. Amar Rabbi Akiva, Amar Rabbi Akiva, Amar Rabbi Akiva. ואהבת לרעך כמוך, זה כלל גדול בתורה. ואהבת לרעך. אמר רבי עקיבא, אמר רבי עקיבא, we are going to continue now with the portion of the service that's called in this prayer book, Ele Ezkara, These I Remember, which is in traditional prayer books known as the Martyrology. Yai, ya da da, ya da da da. Page 518. These I remember, the ones whose lives were shaped by a mitzvah. You must not remain indifferent. The ones who lost their lives through devotion to a mitzvah. Justice, justice, you shall pursue. The ones who embodied through deed and dedication a mitzvah. Choose life. The ones who mended the broken, brought healing to the wounded, fought back despair with the solace of faith. The ones who breathed life into a prayer, Litakein olam b'malchut Shaddai, to establish in the world the sovereignty of high and noble purpose. I remember these, artists of the soul, architects of redemption, the activists and advocates of justice and beauty, exemplars of tikkun olam, repairing the world. On this holy day, we remember 10 sages, known as the 10 martyrs, were executed by Rome in the uprisings of the 1st and 2nd centuries of the Common Era in the land of Israel. Though many other Jews lost their lives as well, the courage of these 10 has been recalled for centuries in a Yom Kippur poem of lament, Ela Ezkara, These I Remember, which reflected the experience of Jewish communities devastated by the Crusades, which began in 1096. And these are their names: Rabbi Yishmael the high priest, Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, prince of Israel, Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Hananiah ben Teradion, Rabbi Chutzpit, Rabbi Elazar ben Shamua, Rabbi Hanina ben Hachanai, Rabbi Yeshavav the scribe, Rabbi Yehuda ben Dama, Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava. Page 520.
Rabbi Akiva was one of the 10, a man of piety and humility, spiritual leader of the Jewish community in the land of Israel, supporter of the Bar Kokhba revolt against Rome that began in 132 CE, who openly defied the Roman decree against assembling in synagogues and teaching the Torah. Of Akiva ben Yosef we are told, when the time came to say the morning Shema, the Roman executioners were combing Akiva's flesh with iron, and he said, "Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one." Akiva's students asked him, "Rabbi, even now?" And he said, "All my life I have been troubled that I could not obey this verse. Love Adonai with all your soul," which is to say, love God even when God takes your soul. And I have wondered, when will I be able to fulfill this mitzvah? Now that the moment has come, how can I not obey? Akiva stretched out the affirmation of divine unity, the word echad, until the departure of his soul, and he died with echad upon his lips. Chaviv Adam Shenivra V'Tselem. Human beings were made in God's image as an act of love.
Page 526.
Hanna Sinesh was a native of Budapest, Hungary. Let's go back to 526. Yosef Ramino represented the state of Israel and the Jewish people on the world stage as an Olympic athlete. Born in Benghazi, Libya, in 1940, Romano immigrated with his family to British Mandatory Palestine at age 6, amidst the terror caused by Muslim massacres against the Jews of Tripoli and 5 other Libyan communities in July 1945 and January 1946. 2 decades later, Romano fought on the Golan Heights in the Six-Day War, and in Munich, he fought back against Palestinian terrorists who had taken Israeli wrestlers and weightlifters hostage. Romano, a weightlifter, was a member of the Israeli team in the 1972 Summer Olympics in Munich. "This is my last competition," he said, of his athletic career on September 4th of that year. "I don't have enough time for my children." 11 members of the Israeli Olympic team were taken hostage and murdered in the massacre by Black September terrorists on September 5, 1972. Though suffering from a ruptured tendon of the knee, Yosef Romano resisted assailants in an effort to save the lives of his teammates. He was murdered early in the siege. Courage, according to a friend, was his religion. La tuchal lihitalem, you must not remain indifferent. Hannah Senesh was a native of Budapest, Hungary, who made Aliyah to British Mandatory Palestine in 1939. 5 years later, having trained as a paratrooper, Senesh was one of 37 Jews who parachuted behind German lines in an attempt to rescue Hungarian Jews destined for Auschwitz. During her 3 months in Europe with partisan resistance fighters, she wrote the prayerful poem, "Blessed is the Match," Ashrei Hagafur. It was her last. Captured and tortured, and having refused a blindfold, Hannah Senesh was executed by Nazi firing squad in 1944 at the age of 23. She's buried in a special section of the military cemetery on Mount Herzl in Jerusalem, where the gravestones are arranged in the shape of a parachute. Ashrei Hagafur shenisraf v'hitzit lehavot. Ashrei halahava shaba'ara v'sitrei levavot. Ashrei halvivavot sheyadu lachdob bichavod. Ashrei Hagafur shenisraf v'hitzit lehavot. Blessed is the match consumed in a kindling flame. Blessed is the flame that softly burns in a heart's secret place. Blessed the hearts that, like flickering lights, knew to flutter and die without shame. Blessed is the match consumed in a kindling flame. Hillel teaches, Uvimkom she'en anashim hishtadel liot ish. In a place where there are no human beings, strive to be human.
Thank you, Betsy. Page 532.
Kaddish. Upon Israel and upon the rabbis and upon the disciples and upon all of the disciples of their disciples and upon all who study the Torah in this place and in every place, to them and to you, peace. Upon Israel and upon all who meet with unfriendly glances, sticks and stones and names, on posters in newspapers or in books to last, chalked on asphalt or in acid on glass, shouted from thousand windows by radio, who are pushed out of classrooms and rushing trains, whom the 100 hands of a mob strike, and whom jailers strike with bunches of keys with revolver butts, to them and to you, in this place and in every place, safety. Upon Israel and upon all who live as the sparrows of the streets, under the cornices of the houses of others, and as rabbits in the fields of strangers, on the grace of the seasons, and what the gleaners leave on the corners, you children of the wind, birds that feed on the tree of knowledge, in this place and in every place, to them and to you, a living. Upon Israel and upon their children, and upon all the children of their children, in this place and in every place, to them and to you, life.
Page 533. For our teachers and their students and the students of the students, we ask for peace and loving kindness, and let us say Amen. And for those who study Torah here and everywhere, may they be blessed with all they need, and let us say Amen. We ask for peace and loving kindness, and let us say Amen. We ask for peace and loving kindness, and let us say Amen. We ask for peace and loving kindness, and let us say Amen. We ask for peace and loving kindness, and let us say Amen. This concludes our afternoon service. We will continue with Yizkor at 5:45. And so we get a little bit of a break. We'll be back here. And once we begin Yizkor, we will continue straight through from Yizkor into Ne'ilah, the conclusion of Yom Kippur. See you then.